Hi, everybody. Thought I'd do a practice thing and just sort of, I guess, a bit of a tutorial on uh, grips and sets and whatnot for the beginner, for the just sort of remedial. I don't like the word remedial, but for the basics. Basics. There we go. Okay, so let's see here. How can I get this so really? Hopefully, we're looking at the pickup and the grip and all that kind of stuff. So, um, a question came to me recently about what is the best way to learn or start out with dice influence, dice control, dice setting. And here's my response to that. Is that I think a hard way or slash 7-axis set is a great set to begin your journey. All right. Uh, I've said many times that the hard way set or a 7-axis set, 7-axis meaning that you have a 6 and a 1, a 5 and a 2, or a 4 and a 3 touching each other in the center and matching numbers on the faces. That is a 7-axis set. That's the basic 7-axis set. But anytime you put those a 7 together in the center like that, regardless of where the faces are, that's a 7-axis set. Even if you turn them around that way and have numbers touching each other, which becomes a kissing set. But it's a 7-axis set. When you have a 7-axis set, if after the dice are finished and they stop moving around, and what you see on the top is one of those axis numbers and one of the face numbers like that, it's impossible for that result to be a 7, which is why it's a great way to start, especially if you don't have good, if you don't yet have good mechanics where the dice are not moving around too much after they land and all that sort of stuff, and you understand table bounce characteristics and all the various things that go into what it takes to have a decent controlled toss. Okay, the next thing would be how you pick these suckers up. And what you want to do when you pick them up is you want to feel that they are together and stuck together, glued together, however you want to refer to that. When you pick them up, and you want to feel that when you turn to now throw them, that they are on a, they're this way, they are in sync with the wall there and the wall here. So that wall there would be where the dealer is. This wall here is like where you are. I'm standing at a stick left spot at the moment. So you want the dice where, and you want them, okay, so you want them facing like this and like that. And you don't want them like this or like that, because what you want is them to come down when you launch them, and when they come back, they land very similar to the way they started and come up to the back wall as closely as possible that way. That's what you're trying to do. What you want to avoid is too much pressure on one cube or the other, which is going to cause them to not operate together or in sync with each other or in correlation with each other. Think of ice skaters, like a pair of ice skaters. I forget what that's called when they're doing doubles or whatever the heck it's called. And when they're skating together, two people, that's what you want these dice to be in sync with each other so that one is corresponding to the other in the results based on the set you put them in. So you pick them up and you want to get pressure on those two cubes to keep them in one shape, a brick type shape, so that when you release them, they go through the air as much together as possible. Now, the probably the easiest sort of grip to learn at first is to say you want to put pressure on that seam between the two, this way and that way. And that would be with the middle finger and the thumb. So that when you pick them up, the middle finger and the thumb. And now, if you can hold them very carefully this way and release them and get which we just had a beautiful one off axis result. A 1 is in the result. That 1 was facing that way. That's the way they started, but that one off axis here, that 1 resulting in the result, or it could have been a 6. With this one being on axis, no 7 possible. Impossible. Okay, so you want to this is the starting point. Get that feel so that, okay, I feel they're both together. And now you want a little bit more stability. So you try to get the pointer finger and the ring finger involved with this finger and the thumb. So you get these two first, and then you add those other two so that you have a nice, this one and the ring finger. My ring finger doesn't work too well without the little finger getting involved. But with this finger and that finger, just making contact, and perhaps a little bit more on the edge, maybe a little bit further down on the surface, but just slight contact so that now you have the dice sort of rotating off of a fulcrum going across the face, the two faces. Now, I like to do a deck release. Some people like to hold them up in the air. Doesn't matter. Sometimes they just pick them up and then throw them with a pendulum. I like this. You can modify it by just putting it back slightly when you pick them up. But let's just off the table, hold it back. And we got a single pitch 5. We'll talk about what a single pitch and all that stuff is later. All right. This 3 started there. This 2 was on the bottom. And that is an on-axis toss. You're throwing on axis. You want to do that. You want to get that feeling of that brick shape, and you want to have as fulcrum of the fingers across the front. Kind of just get some spin off of that slight. And there's a 1 off axis 10. So with that, we will stop and we will say to the viewer, if you have questions, if this is new to you and you don't quite get all of this and you have an interest in it and you have a question about it, let me know in the comments. Be sure and say, like, if you liked, this content, and I will be happy to respond. I definitely like helping people understand how to do this and how to be better craps shooters. Okay. So with that, I will say, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and remember, luck has got very little to do with it. Mudslide out.